I don't set out to be that, like to be inspiring or to be, I just do what I think is right and what works for me. And what works for me clearly is kind of working for other women, like, and I meet them and I love them up. And I'm not trying to love them up because I don't think they deserve it. I truly believe I love to love people up, give them that little tiny bit of confidence, make them feel, extra special about themselves. And that is where the whole business side of my life is. And that's why I've done it for 20 years. Not very many people have done jobs for that long. And surprisingly, for portraits, it's been a job and a job that I love. And I think that's why it's lasted so long.
It's wonderful to see those that are actually sitting here and listening to this podcast. I'm bringing someone very special and I just met. And do you know when you meet someone and your soul connects to them directly, and there's a soul connection that you don't want to quit. When I met Ariane, I wanted to showcase her to the world. I am so in love with this lady. She brings so much joy in my heart. When I met her, when I actually saw her on media, that's where I saw her on Facebook first. And I saw what she was capturing with women. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be part of that. Like, oh my God, I want to be part of that. And then I got to meet her in person, which was even more intriguing. And so when we got a coffee date, she was so well presented. She was listening to my story. She heard me. And then I said to myself, oh my God, I do very similar things to her. I always let others talk about them and always share their stories. They're always sharing, and I always want to shine them. Why are we not shining those that shine others, right? So if you're listening to this first time, this is one podcast you have to listen to. I can't wait for you to share her. I want to introduce her to you. Her name is Ariane Jaschke. Am I?
That's pretty darn close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So could you say your full name? Ariane
Jaschke.
Jaschke is a
Yeah.
radiant soul whose passion lies in capturing the beauty, essence, and untold magic of motherhood. As the founder of Podcasts and Portraits and the season of Reflections of Women Over 40 and a devoted mother of two, Ariane believes deeply in the power of mothers to unlock their true potential, discovering their authenticity, love, and spiritual depth. She has made it her mission to illuminate the unique stories of women, empowering them to embody their highest selves. But her gift doesn't stop there. Through the breathtaking photography, Ariane captures moments of pure self-love and beauty, revealing each woman's unique radiance. Whether in session or behind the lens, she sees the soul, drawing out the spiritual essence in every mother she works with. Ariane's work is a celebration of the divine feminine and the unspoken stories within. Through her podcast, she continues to inspire others by sharing her deep insights on intuition and heart-centered living, creating a ripple of empowerment and joy that touches everyone she encounters. She is truly a beacon of light, shining love on the journey of motherhood and the beauty of embracing one true self. So welcome, Ariane. Let's get to know you and let's
Thank
bring your
you.
story out. Thank you for being here.
Well, you've said it all.
Ah.
That's me. All right, I'm done.
You are a magical being. And I love to talk to women that are just as magical as you are. But there is a deep story, and there's a story that in within you that I want you to share. You have kids, you're a mom of your own, you do shine those around you, but let's shine you today. So tell us
Oh,
a little
well,
bit
thank
about you
you.
and tell us why you do what you do too. And give us every detail about you and let others see the real Arya.
Oh, well, I would love to talk a little bit about it. And I mean, if anybody's interested, this is a little tiny, tiny snippet of the story. We need days if we're going to talk about the whole life story, but I'm going to give you a tiny little snippet today. And I feel like if I can empower or help to power any women in kind of going after whatever they want to do, then this is all worth it. It's all worth it. You know, I often will come up with ideas and I always say, oh man, such a great idea. It's such a great idea. Or people tell me they're great ideas. Oh, and I feel like we often get into that kind of like, well, how do I actually just do it? And there's just the first step is the idea. And I think the second step is actually like looking at it. What do I need to do to achieve this? So the reason why I say that is because for 20 years, I've been doing portraits, and I have met hundreds of people. Like on average, I'll do 200 to 300 shoots a year. So that's 20 years. So times 20 years, how many people have I met? And I feel like last year, at the end of last year, I was feeling a little like not bored, but like restless. I was feeling restless. And I thought, for so many years, like I'm kind of known as the totally inappropriate therapist among my friends. Yeah. So people will come with their oh, what do I do? What do I do? And I'll be like, listen, am I allowed to swear? I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or not, but I'll be like, listen, fuck it. Just freaking do it. Like whatever it is, they're, this or this or this. And I'm always giving like really rational, but harsh advice. So my one of my best friends, Krista, we were sitting, and every Friday night we have wine, and she's like, man, you really are like, you take on a lot of people's energy. You are consistently meeting with people for no reason. This is before podcasts and portraits came along, just meeting them because they want to chat. And I love chatting. So I've been meeting people, and they're like, oh my gosh, my friends are like, you don't have any time for me because you're always meeting people for coffee and you're always talking. And I think I know it was in last year, but in December, January, I was like, I need to somehow incorporate this into a hobby.
Yes.
Or business.
Yeah.
Well, what's better than a hobby and a business combined?
Yeah.
So that's when podcasts and portraits came along. Now I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. I was just like, okay, I want to do a podcast. I love talking, and I don't love hearing my voice, and I don't necessarily love like going in and hearing like, oh, what did you say to that person? Like, oh my God, no filter, please. And I thought, you know what? That's why people like me, because there is no filter. And I'm just truly giving you the advice that I would give myself or my kids or anybody else. And not even advice. Like I'm not like, qualified to give advice, but I sure love to give it.
I don't think anybody really is, but we do give the advice thinking that we've probably gone through a very similar stage.
Yeah.
And here, hey, we've gone through this. Maybe this will work. So yes, and I think you have the right to do it as long as someone's listening, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So then they came up with one of my other best friends, Sherry, we came up with the Women in Business group. And that kind of helped propel the podcast and portraits reflections of women over 40. Now, the reason why we did the Women in Business group kind of all ties in. So I have, in the past, I have run for city council and not made it in, but learned a lot of really interesting things along the way. Met so many really strong women that were like, oh, we need to get you, you're just a regular mom from the burbs, you need to get you in. Didn't happen for me, wasn't meant to happen for me. And I truly accept that. It was totally fine. I thought I would give it another go in the federal election. Did not happen for me, but also, once again, met so many incredible people with so many cool ideas and stories and journeys. And they shared them with me. And I thought, okay, well, I wasn't meant to do that, but there's still something. There's still something else that I know I'm meant to do. And I'm not sure what it is. I knew it's something to do with like, not influencing. That sounds like it's kind of a negative term. Like not an influencer, but someone who helps other people just be the best version of themselves. And through photos, I was doing that.
Isn't that influencer though? Look at you. Okay,
so
I have
the OG. It's the OG before influencers.
You are an influencer, because when I met you many years ago, I saw you as a leader. I saw you as a person to like connect with all these women. So you influenced me to become that leader. And so when I saw you again, you were doing these podcasts and these photographies from, for these women over 40. Hello, I'm over 40. Yay. Let's make this happen. I want to meet her. I didn't know how to get a hold of you personally, but you influenced me and you sparked something in my heart. You influenced me. So then when I got to see your message saying you're looking for something, I immediately texted you or sent you a
Yeah.
message. So you really are someone to look up to. And it's a belief and a strong comfort that you need to believe that too, because you are
Mm.
an influencer
Mm.
and you are an inspiring woman. And I want you to see that because in order to do a business that you love as a hobby, you have to believe in that confidence. And I feel it very strongly about you.
It's funny because I don't set out to be that, like to be inspiring or to be, I just do what I think is right and what works for me. And what works for me clearly is kind of working for other women. And I meet them and I love them up. And I'm not trying to love them up because I don't think they deserve it. I truly believe I love to love people up, give them that little tiny bit of confidence, make them feel, extra special about themselves. And that is where the whole business side of my life is. And that's why I've done it for 20 years. Not very many people have done jobs for that long. And surprisingly, for portraits, it's been a job and a job that I love. And I think that's why it's lasted so long.
Mm.
And so the podcast kind of came naturally in that I was being a therapist
Yeah.
to people, and I thought, well, why don't we? And what my podcast is not at all about. It's their own therapy. It's not me giving advice at all. It's all just listening. And sometimes it's like, Ariane, just shut your mouth and listen. And it's like I shut my mouth and I just listen and let them go blah 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 blah. And it's just
Wow.
that feeling like they've got it off their chest. And sometimes people talk about things that we would never put on the podcast because it's just not something that they want everyone to know, but they wanted someone to know.
Mm.
They wanted to feel like they could not going to be judged. And I wouldn't be like, even if I was like an actual therapist, I wouldn't be the one that just sits and listens. I'd be like, whoa, what
Yeah.
happened? Whoa, this, like, it's that personality that it's
Yeah.
either you jive or you don't jive. Most people are like, oh, like that, you're actually like enthusiastic about my story or ingrained in it. And I think that's what we need. As we lose that with the social media influencing, just telling you this lipstick is going to look good on you, this is what you need to do today. I want to talk, and it's like that there's no excitement about someone else. It's not like listening to someone else's story and hearing their journey. And I feel like that's just kind of what was a little. I mean, there's other podcasts such as your own where you do listen. This is exactly what you're doing. You're hearing all these stories. I literally feel like we're so much on the same path with this. So I was just talking about you as well this weekend to some of my friends. I was like, you need to meet this woman. I really feel like you're just gonna love, like, just hanging out, and you got such a great energy. So I feel like that's like you're kind of just drawn to these people, right? Like we were drawn to each other for whatever reason, and maybe 5 years ago or 4 years ago it wouldn't have been the same connection, but it's the same connection now. And I feel like everyone that is drawn to me and I'm drawn to them, there's a reason why. There's
Yeah.
some reason why. Who knows where it brings you in life, who know what it does. It doesn't necessarily, not necessarily business wise, but just emotional and all that other stuff. And everyone who leaves my studio, every single person, I can say 99.9% will end up being my friend after just 20 minutes after chatting with me, and then having your 20-minute session or hour session. We bond. We may not always be very similar in personalities, but there's something that I can pull from every single person that walks in that we can find a connection with. Doesn't matter what walk of life, what nationality, what gender, what you are, there's something, and that's the human connection. That's the little human connection. Well, it's actually a big connection, but it's something in there that I can find. And a lot of people like yourself can find that with people.
Mm.
Sometimes it's hard though for some people.
Yeah.
It's a very like, oh, I don't like anybody. I'm all, there's always trouble and there's always drama. There's always something. And it's, it's just finding that, knowing that there is a connection to every single person in this entire world somehow.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point, especially when it comes to a connection. I think the connection starts with energy. And
Mm-hmm.
the energy continues to fill it up. Do you know when you're walking towards someone, or like, I don't know, maybe you've met people that the connection was just not there, or it just
Mm-hmm.
felt wrong. It's like, oh, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I can work with
Mm-hmm.
this person or not.
Mm-hmm.
And you either have to say, I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
or you have to say, or just go with it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
you are the only one that can feel that connection, right? So
Yeah.
it really depends. Even with my podcasts, and I know you'll do the same. When you interview someone, you have to be able to have that connection.
Mm-hmm.
That
Some
energy
sort
is
of,
the
yeah.
biggest thing, right? And sometimes a connection doesn't hit properly. And I'll do a podcast with them, and I'm like, oh, that did not go well. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that
right?
happens. And you know what? I could be a little bit of an asshole. I'm not like freaking far from perfect.
Yeah.
I'll be like, that's a you problem. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why we didn't connect, but that was a you problem. And you know what? And I do it kind of jokingly, but I do think about it after. Like if I do have that thing where I'm like, what was that missing link? What was it? And then I kind of think about like, there's got to be something that didn't work. What was it? And it sometimes, for me, I know because I'm so aware of my energy and so aware of the energy coming towards me and what I'm accepting. So that's why I do blame the others. Like they're probably not aware of it. They're not sure and they don't know so who knows? Like I definitely totally see where you're coming from because we walk into a room, you can already feel if this is going to be a good night or
Yeah.
not. You can tell that energy that's flowing, and you can walk past groups of people that you go, that is not good energy. This is good energy. And it's not necessarily people that you even know, it's just in general. And the reason why I think people some give away some of that negative energy, it's not because they're complete assholes. They got something going on. They got
Mhm.
something going on. They don't have it in them to give that positive energy. They just don't have it in them. And it is what it is. Doesn't mean it's forever. Just means at that moment that we passed by them, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So, and it's weird, sometimes it's funny. I'll walk into a room and like, oh no, I love this person. I almost always end up being friends with that person at some point, maybe not right then,
Yeah.
but at another point, I'm going, well, that's really weird because I really didn't like this person. I
Yeah.
didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't, and then I see him in another day, another time, another situation, and you're like, wow, okay, that was just the energy of that day. That was what they were given. That's all they had in them to give. We can
And
only
that's
give
it.
what we can give. And I'm too. Sometimes I walk into the gym or whatever, and I feel like an ass. I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't even want to smile. I just want to get my stuff done. And I wonder how many people passed by me that day and said, oh God,
Yeah.
where's that? You know what I mean? Like, what's up with this chick? So that's just that awareness of knowing I don't give it out positively every day. I don't give it out negatively. Like I'm not out there, giving people dirty looks. I'm usually just like, let's get
Mhm.
this, whatever it is I need to get done, let's get it done. So yeah, it depends on the day, the hour, the time of year, the time of person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm so happy you brought that up, because I think the ups and downs in life is so important to actually talk about,
Hmm.
because we are not always going to be in a good spot every single day. We're not going to be
Hmm.
happy every single day.
Hmm.
But, as long as we can kind of know that it can happen to others and
Hmm.
allow them to feel that energy. And if
Hmm.
that energy doesn't provide you happiness at this point, at this time, to walk away is fine.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe, like you said, maybe later on, the energy will get back to normal, get back
Hmm.
to this. But
Hmm.
so I have to ask you, going back into your business situation, how doing what you're doing today and being able to shine those women around you. It takes time for you to
Hmm.
get your hobby to get started into a business. You have two kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, totally. I have two kids. So I've got Sebastian and Chloe, 17 and 12. And so they're a little bit older. I mean, the kids of all ages, but I feel like I'm finally getting to that point where they are a little bit more self-sustained, as in they can do the things that were annoying to me. So they can make their own snacks, they can do those things, but they are not self-sustained in that they still need a mom more than they ever needed it at 2 years old. 2 years old, they needed you to comfort them in different ways. They needed you to make sure that, get a blanket from the high shelf. You needed them, they needed to give that love and attention. They need different love and attention now
Mm.
as almost adults. And that is where you have to kind of, for me, is to look and say, oh my God, they're adult, like they're almost adults. Like they are not just my kids. They are human beings that are trying to find their way in this world, and they're trying to navigate who they are and where they want to be. That's the hard part about parenting a little bit older children. And I looked at my daughter the other day and I said, "Oh my God, you're a human." Okay, that sounds crazy, but like you're not. You always think of your kid. That's my kid. That's my son. That's my daughter. That's almost like the only thing they are, because you are so ingrained in every single aspect of their life. You know where they are. You've bought all their clothing. You have made every single meal. You know what's going in their body, what's out of their body, everything. And then you get to the point where they don't really need that from you. They need a different relationships. You're going, oh God, well, who am I now? Because now I'm telling another adult-ish how to live life. And then, you're hoping that from 0 to 17 or 0 to 16, you've taught them enough, but you haven't. They haven't. You just can't possibly teach them enough to just push them out and be like, off you go, because they still need so much from their parents, more than what they needed as a child in different ways, different connections.
It's like a
So
little
I'm
roller
finding
coaster,
that.
right? You go up a roller coaster. You're
Absolutely.
like at this point where like they're just born and you're trying to
Yeah.
figure them out and
Yeah.
figure out how to help them. And then you go down saying, oh my God, this is easy. And then they
Yeah.
change again. And then it's
Yeah.
harder again.
Yeah.
And then you go back down. It's like, okay, I got it. But by the time you're down,
Yeah.
you're up again. So
Yes.
really
Yes.
a definite roller coaster to be able to transition with your kids. I know from
Mhm.
young to teenagers to getting to adults and stuff. And they continue to change personalities, but newer and
Mhm.
newer things come out for you to be able to challenge yourself.
Mhm.
So having that challenge and having that household and having all of that, how do you run your own business?
Well, and I'm sure that almost everyone with little kids, when I started my business, it was just under 20 years ago. So I was pregnant with my son. And that was the hardest time to build the business. I mean, it's always a hustle. It's always a hustle, but it really was the hardest time. And I will take every single mother and father, but every single mother who is starting their own business and go say, I'm going on maternity leave, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to be a photographer, or what a lot of people become photographers, I think, because it's an art. If you won the lottery and you didn't have to ever do a job, people would still do art. They would still do. They would not still go and do some accounting. They would not go and fix their car unless it's something that they love to do. They would always still be artists. So these are jobs. So when I chose to be an artist or chose to be a photographer, I was choosing a job that, well, I would do this even if I won the lottery. So it was like a hobby, a pleasure that you can. So but with building it with children, oh my God, I had beside this desk that I'm sitting at, I had, the little playpen beside me. Okay, I kind of built, and mom or whatever, sitting. Then I had all the toys in here, and they never left my side. We were always in here, and everything that you do, the hours that you spend are based on how your kids, whether they're sleeping or whether they're snacking or whatever. And then they get out of that and they go to school, and you go, oh, I've got like 5 hours that I don't have any kids in here. Okay, so those 5 hours you fill so quickly, and then you got to pick them up. So your day ends at 2:15 every day. That's difficult because the rest of the world doesn't end at 2:15. But as soon as your kids come home, you feel like you're 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, you got something. And then you got the big gap in there where you're constantly doing that, and so you're working 10. And that's why I did this too, so that I could pick them up from school, I can drop them off from school, I can bring them snacks. Now, not everybody has that luxury, but I do find that it was a hard thing to do, working like the 10 to 2 and making sure that your kids don't even realize you work. They'll be like, oh, mom, can we do this and this? I'm like, well, I do work when, you just don't see it because I don't work in the morning. I take you to school and then I work when you're at school and then I don't work in the evening or I'll edit in the evening when they're asleep. So they have this kind of like, oh, my mom's always there and they're very, very lucky because not everybody gets to do that. But if you do get to do that and if you can choose to do that, you will never, never regret spending that time with your kids in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoons. Not everybody can do that, and I totally understand. But I always say if you can, the bond that you build through those pivotal moments of their life is will set them up for maybe not having to have therapy. Maybe they don't, maybe they will feel like, well, my mom didn't even work. She was always there. And then, but somehow she was still able to afford to take us to dance and baseball and everything else. So I do remind them, listen, I work, your dad works. We are working. I'm choosing to work hours. You choose, as as a business hour, you choose which 80 hours a week you're going to work.
Mm-hmm.
There's never 40 hours. You're gonna work 80 hours a week, but you might be working in the middle of the night, but it's to make them for the betterment of the kids.
Yeah.
Sorry, I totally rambled on that, but that's like how I felt for the very beginning. So difficult. The middle was a little bit easier, and now the end, not the end. When your kids get their driver's license and stuff, now you've got Uber. You've got, can you do this? Can you do that? And then I'll keep paying for gas as long as you're doing it. So life gets a little bit easier again.
So being a mom, I got to be honest with you, and being able to do the hobbies that you love and to be able to do the things that you love. I personally feel, though you have such a beautiful life, being able to be with your kids and being able to do things that you want to do with your kids, first of all, that's phenomenal because mothers around the world would love to have that kind of. But I also believe those that are working and not being able to be with their kids constantly are always missing that bond with their kids, right?
It's hard.
It is hard. And then they don't get that self-love or self-care before, they get out,
Well, they're sacrificing.
Yeah.
Right? They're sacrificing. There's always sacrifices. It's like, I'm working 9 to 5. I do not get to hang out with my kids as much. I'm sacrificing that. I am home at nighttime. And then also, you're right with the self-love. Well, they don't have time for that. They're sacrificing that love that they, whatever it is that they need to do for their kids because they want to spend the time with their kids. It's just motherhood is a lot about sacrifices and guilt and working your life so that your kids are as happy as you can possibly make them or help them be. You can't make them be happy, but help them, guide them.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. So, now that you love to give advice, I'm going to ask you to give advice. As a mother, as an entrepreneur, I want you to give us something that stands out for any mother out there is how do you start your day? How do you start that day so that no matter where you are in life, either an entrepreneur or working mother, wanting to be with your kids, wanting to be there for them, there could be a way that they could start their day or end their day that could still give them the satisfaction for themselves and to be a mom for their kids.
Oh,
what
yes.
advice would you give that?
I have great advice for that.
Yes.
I'm gonna actually do it with ending your day.
Okay.
Because these two kids, even at their age, we end that day always saying goodnight and always with a rundown of the evening. So it doesn't matter if I have a ton of work to do still. At 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, they don't need to go to bed. I've never really had bedtimes. They do go to bed. It's just naturally they go to bed around 9:30. I will go in like with Chloe. We will probably talk every day for at least a half an hour. Now we talk all throughout the day, but at nighttime, pull up the blankets. It doesn't, even if I've got so much work to do, I got so much stuff, I just want to skip one night, never skip a night. Because the day that you no longer are doing that, you will regret any night you ever skipped saying good night, because there is going to be days when they are 30 years old and they are not living in your home, maybe 25, maybe who knows. You will say, oh my God, what I wouldn't give for one more snuggle session in their beds, just chatting about their day. And so those evenings to me are so important. So with my son, our snuggle sessions are a lot different. They are not, they're 17-year-old boy. We're not sitting under the covers snuggling, but I'm sitting on his bed, sometimes lying next to him, talking about what was the best part of your day? What was the crappiest part of your day? And I don't actually say those words. We just sit and say, hey, how's it going? He just goes into saying, this is what I hate. I had a terrible day. I hate school, or I hate this. He goes very dramatic. Never doing this again. I'm quitting school. I'm quitting this. I'm quitting baseball. And then the next, I'm like, okay, we'll sleep on it. And I feel like you can end that day with just know you're loved. I don't care if you quit every single thing in your entire life. And I will always still love you. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters in the end except knowing that they have someone to land on at the end of the day and just connect and they can go to sleep without heavy hearts. Because when you wake up in the morning and last night you had a heavy heart, the heavy heart hasn't gone away. So if you can start your morning, you start the night before, and that's how your morning starts. We get up, it's a new day, and it's not always sunshines and butterflies, but it's a new day. You have new decisions to make. Everything is new. Let's move on. And the mornings, we're always late because I am not. I hate mornings. That's why I say no. And my kids, unfortunately, they hate mornings. So we get up. They just barely get to school on time. I feel that them having breakfast and not rush is better. And I'm going to have a million people that disagree, is better in our world than to be like, we gotta get out of here, we gotta get your shoes on, let's go. And then they get to school and they're going, oh, they got, a hat on back. I feel like we've started our day, we've had our breakfast, we chatted. Yes, we're probably going to be late. Now, hopefully they find jobs where that's okay. And if they don't find jobs, they will learn very quickly, because it's not my job to teach them everything in the world. It's to teach them that this is what we do. This is what works for us. When you get a job, that might not work for your boss. So I totally understand. I'm aware of the whole, well, you got to set them up for, being successful and being on time. I totally get that. But it's been all these years. It's working well. They're pretty well adjusted. I just feel like that there's some things that life is going to teach them that isn't really my job to teach them. You know what I mean? Like maybe they will find a job that it doesn't matter what time they get there, or maybe they will plan be an hour early every day, or maybe who knows, maybe they'll need therapy and say, my mom was always late. Now I need to talk to somebody. Like, we don't know. We don't know. We can only control what works for us at this moment, this time. And it's what's working, So we'll see how that goes. I'll get back to you in a few years.
Oh, I'd love for you to get back to me in a few years to see how that goes. I want to end that here and just say, you just made my podcast amazing, because being a mom, going through roller coasters, having an entrepreneur, shining those around you, but then also being there for your kids and loving them. I can honestly say you're a super mom, seriously, because it's very difficult for other mothers to maybe even find that, to be able to look through that. They do everything for their kids and for their husband. But when it comes to time for themselves, do something for themselves, they've neglected that part. And when they neglect that part to loving themselves or to do something for themselves, even if it's a workout or taking a nice hot shower and just closing their eyes and saying thank you, it's to the point where, they're running themselves down, hoping that their family's taken care of. But one day it's going to be so late that they won't even be able to be there for their kids because they're going to get sick. So this is something I adore about you. So thank you for being who you are, a mom, an entrepreneur, someone that takes care of herself first, someone that takes care of the kids and shines women around the world. Who wouldn't want to work with you?
Thank you. You know what? You've made my day. This is amazing. I feel like you've tooted my horn a little bit. Like I could go out saying, you know what? Maybe I'm pretty awesome. Because you know what? We all need to feel that way sometimes about ourselves. Like, you know what? someone thinks I'm pretty awesome.
And I believe everyone thinks everyone's awesome in their own ways. So
Yeah,
never put yourself down. Never say that, you're wrong or that you wish you were a better mother, because you are the best mom that you can be for your kids and the best person you
absolutely.
can be for yourself. So there's
Right.
one thing, if anything, if anyone's still here listening to this amazing podcast, Ariane,
They
one
probably clicked
thing,
off by now. They're like, that lady rambles.
absolutely not. Love yourself. Love yourself no matter where you are, what you do. And the reason I wanted to bring Ariane here today and talk about herself is because her energy lights up this world, lights me up, lights those around her. And so everyone that's around her gets lit up. So when you're here listening to her, I hope you get lit up and I hope you light up too as well, because she's a beautiful, most phenomenal woman. And if you want to share your story too as well, and you want a photography done and you want to feel that glamour and love around you, do book a session with Ariane, because
Yes,
she
yes.
really captures you. She captures your soul. She captures your heart, and she captures your story. And if you're here, anywhere, just message her. I
Mhm.
would love for her to get to know all of you guys, because you guys are all beautiful inside and out. And Ariane is another beautiful mommy too. So
You are
Ariane,
too.
do send me. I will send, actually, if you're here, because a lot of people may not be able to read the description, just give us your Instagram, give us your do you have a website or no?
I the website is being created right now, but I do have a website and an Instagram. So the website is captured by with an X,
Mhm.
capturedxarian.com. It will be changed, but that's okay. Instagram is the best way probably to find me, podcasts and portraits, or capturephotography.studio. Those are the places to find me.
Perfect. This is
Or I'll find you. Who
yeah.
knows?
If you're on the description below, either you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Apple or Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, the description will be below. So I'm so excited to have Ariane here, having you all listen to this. Continue to subscribe. We're here to shine others, to follow others, listen to their stories, and love them for who they are. Thank you, Ariane. We love you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.